Okay, so I am back with another video. Let me make sure that everything is all right. So there isn't going to be any disturbances. All right. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, so yes, I'm back with another video. This particular live stream, I've got a little project going on here and it self motivates me and it's doing a lot for me. And I'm truly enjoying connecting with the reading of the Bhagavad Gita, which is, by the way, it's a Bible. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's a Bible, and it's just not like anything that I've ever read before because what I'm saying is that it's 500 or 5 centuries older than the Abrahamic, but I'm telling you that the if you want to call them scriptures, the scriptures align perfectly. They're saying, I mean, I know that a lot of people say, "Oh, it's practically the same thing." No, I mean words, understandings, descriptions of what words mean. I know I'm generalizing very much because I've got a long video today, but every time that I talk about this, I get so excited about this. So it's not to say, oh, this is an alternative. This is better than. No, it's really the fact that it demonstrates the evolution of the human consciousness. So, as I'm not saying that the Bhagavad Gita is far less complex and sophisticated as, something like would be newer, like particularly would be um, the New Testament Bible or any Bible. It's not saying that either. It's just saying that in man's evolution, as far back as 5 centuries before the Bible, this is the way they thought. And you can see the way they thought by reading what they believed, which is in their Bible. So it's fascinating. And it just gives another glimpse into something that can be beautiful, you know, inspired words of gods, if you will. So, anyways, I have read, and by the way, um, these videos seem to be, I mean, they catch fire pretty quick, if you know what I mean, like immediately. Now, people are just now becoming comfortable. I mean, I kind of had to push a little bit with my I mean, people will come if I know if I'm doing live stream and I'm reading tarot cards and I'm presenting myself as a psychic, etc., working. Yes, people will come along, but I mean like so far as like live stream and I just like, okay, the live stream's over, I go about my day. It takes a minute, and I understand, it's more of the psychic service that people are interested in than rather than the teachings of my findings. So what I've done is I began including readings, as in reading what's going on, and then sharing that as something a bit like universal style reading that everyone can connect with and identify with, and also a little bit of now teaching as concerned like it has to match whatever the discussion is. So it's not just random things to show off how much I know. It's relevant to the topic of that day, of the reading of that day. That's universal. So I find that those are popular. In fact, those are doing really well. And I'm excited. They're monetized, but not for me. I mean, I'm not getting anything out of it, but it's nice to see that what I'm doing for the channel is proper. Um, So as you know, the reason why I bring that up, if you know, then if you've been, if you've kind of hang out in my live streams, I've had some grumps or some gripes about, I've had to, I've tried, I guess I should say, to figure out a way to share, my worldly psychic predictions, things going on in the world, but YouTube is just not the place for that, and I respect that. I mean, and no harm, no foul. So I have privated. That's why they're privated now, but I can share them in other ways. So my work is not done. Okay. But anyways, it keeps me focused of what the plan is for this channel. So along with of course, today's live stream is the reading of the Bhagavad Gita, but also, sharing my findings in the psychic way. Yes, all of that is going to still happen. It's just that I'm sharing this information differently than normal, than how I normally would. For example, it's going to be, even though I already am prepared, I know that just because it's going to be like members only, I still probably would not be a good idea to share something that they disagree with, So I won't, but I can more or less package it to you differently because I am intending to do writings, but I'm excited about my endeavors to write books. So I'll be able to put it in books, in something that's written or an ebook. I can do that. Or I can also direct you to where to find such information, but I'm going to make it easy for you. So I'm already, where I have slid into, where everybody else is sliding to who are in this predicament. Not Patreon, nope. Then it must be the other one, Rumble. Yes. So, but that, but not to where people say, so I got to go to Rumble and then some. No, I'm not a Rumbler. I get it. So I'm not going to put it there. I wouldn't share that for you. I wouldn't say, oh yeah, come and see me on Twitter or something. I can tell you here on YouTube. No, you're here on YouTube. But there is something called the community something or another that everybody has over there. So it would be more like, if you want to check out this kind of content from me, it would be on a community wall. Then also where one can actually make better use of their time, get to the point, find what they're looking for, and also, hey, support. so so it'll be just like that. So in other words, it'll be like, instead of going on this great adventure to different, like, oh, website here, website this, www that this. No, it's more like, this is the community place where people can find like everything that I am. I guess everything that I am. I love that. Yeah, everything that I am. That worked out rather nicely. Everything that I am. Everything that I am. Yeah, so, yeah. It reminded me of one of those sweet songs, Everything That I Am. That's a great uh, song title. So, yeah. So it would be where you can go there and everything would just be like, what they call, like, in a feed. And of course, if I can direct you to the community, then I can also maybe direct you to the specific link that would be, uh, I would say, intriguing without it triggering, being disrespectful to YouTube. I don't want to, you know, I don't want I don't want that problem. No, I don't want that to become an issue or problem, because rather I like YouTube, and I also like Rumble. It's two different, like, I'm multidimensional. I like places where, like, it's kind of like this. So you go to, let's say, any fast restaurant, right? But then you go to a nice diner restaurant. What's the difference between the two? Well, the finer one may serve adult beverages. You may not can't get a beer at, let's say, Wendy's, at least not yet. So you go into Wendy's, you can't get a beer, but you can go to a nice sports bar, sit down, right? And you can get, some of the same kinds of items, right? Prepared a little differently, okay? And you can order a beer. You know what I mean? So it's what I'm saying is, I'm okay with being multifaceted. I love the idea of exploring different areas without having to create like two different, three different YouTube channels to express myself. I like the idea of having one YouTube channel for and preparing content that's for YouTube, and then going over there to Rumble and and shaking it up a bit with things that may be, that may uh, that may what they call it, uh, that may be mind provoking, and over there I can share with you those powerful predictions that wake me up, that stir me in the middle of the night to get up to write and say, oh my gosh, somebody have got to hear this because this is going to affect them. So I could pass on that information. So when I do get those, yeah, the train doesn't stop here with the idea that I should not post those types of content, as that's not for YouTube, but it's apparently it's for Rumble. And likewise, there's some, like, so that means that this content here isn't for Rumble. You get it? When me going over there to Rumble and sharing this kind of content is not why people are going to Rumble. I mean, it's nice. It's a nice gesture. People will say, "Oh," they'll give me my gems, but that's not quite why they are there. They're there for the ruckus of what's going on in the world stage. So that's beautiful, that I have a space where I can just say it like it is. I don't have to cookie cutter. I don't have to avoid triggers. I can just say it, even though for me, I mean, they're sensitive topics, but there are no triggers that I'm deliberately needing to tap into to say what I need to say. So I'm not outright looking to harm. It's just that, for example, the issue isn't about how I address things. It was the content that I address things, at which I cannot talk about certain things. But these things, even though it's not necessarily political to me, but it is political to YouTube. So, and I respect that. So I guess it may be considered a matter of personal opinion, and or a matter but rather than, I'd rather be a matter of an opinion rather than of taste. But even though as a psychic it's not my opinion, I'm just sharing what I see. But that's neither here nor there because science hasn't proven us quite just yet. So it's not what I'm saying, it's the fact that what I'm saying could be considered, um, what they call it. They said that it was, I guess, offering political viewpoints, or that's how it comes across. So, um, yeah, so that was the reason why. Right now, I didn't know which ones that they were picking at, so I just took them all down. Except for ones that, I kept a few that I would test that just were about, because the channel is the focus of being psychic. So I found that some videos are okay. My biggest worries and fears was that none of my my psychic reading live streams would be okay. But they pass. Not only are they okay, but also there's nothing wrong with my reading of the Holy Bhagavad Gita. So, yeah, so I also found a way. So I've got my hands firmly on the wheel. So I already know how to test to see what is a green light and what is not. So I definitely know Like when I do a video, I already know, look, is this video okay? And because if it's not, I will private it, and I will, I know, okay, I can't use that here, but there's another place I can use it. I can mark it to. It's kind of like whenever you're in any industry, you have to find your place in the market. And like especially if you're inventing or creating or writing, you have to find what place in the market is for what person, character you're writing about, or product. And so it's like, I may not have this product for you, but I've got maybe something else you might find interest, you might like. So I think of it like that. I think of it as an opportunity and for different outlet. So rather than thinking of it as not necessarily feeling like I don't have a voice. It's not about whether or not I have a voice or that my voice is being heard. It's not really about that. To me, that in my thoughts, I'm not saying that I quite felt that way before discovering how I would work around this obstacle. In fact, I had privated it and I didn't know what to do with the information other than, well, I could chop it up and kind of fill it out and fill out the water, see what goes, what doesn't, and pull it if it doesn't. And I'm glad I don't have to do that. I'm glad I don't have to like chop it up and water it down and put sugar on it and then serve. I'm glad I don't have to do that. I can take it and run it as a content piece or a restream, um, or I can just use it for writing purposes because I've got the wisdom, the knowledge, and the prophecies that actually happened, the predictions we know that happened. It's just that you all can't see it because it's in private mode. Okay, so I guess we get the hint, and that's where I'm at, all caught up with all of that. So I'll stop rumbling. Okay, so enough of those innuendos. Okay, so I am going to start with the Bhagavad Gita, and I welcome everybody, of course, to subscribe. Oh, by the way, everyone who is subscribing, gosh, I've got 2,000 plus. Before I know it, I will have 5,000, 10,000 subscribers before I know it. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how long will this take and what I got to do? You all, I am. Oh, by the way, my watch hours are doubling. Like I had, like it went from like it goes from like 8 watch hours to like 20 something odd watch hours that I've incorporated, that I have earned. So that means that people are watching these live streams, but also the time that they're watching has increased. That's what I'm saying. So I'm thrilled about that because before you know it, I'm already setting it up where I can give this my full attention because you do know that my day job is I'm a professional psychic. So all of my day hours go into that. Not that I can't do in between. I can't you know, during, my calls, do a little, which I tend to do, but it throws my energy off. It's kind of like studying and then somebody disrupts your studies. And I mean that in a respectful way. I mean, it's my job. I'm supposed to do. But I'm just saying that I noticed that mentally. I noticed that. So, or if I'm writing a sentence and I'm like, either I answer that call and I help do what I'm supposed to do with the universe because I owe it to universe, or I keep writing the sentence that isn't going to sound the same as when I come back around to finish the other part of the sentence I haven't written down yet. So I'm working with the client. I'm multitasking. I'm like writing out the rest of the sentence. I'm like, oh, there, got that. And I'm like, yes, I'm here for you. So I know that there is, a difference there. So I'm already kind of setting into place where I can, because at some point I know that I will be able to give, I will give 100% focus to my platforms. So yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So um, I absolutely love working with my clients. I know, I feel like I have a personal connection with all of them. And so it's going to be a little tough for me to switch over. And so it's not going to be anytime soon for sure. But this is the direction that I know that my career, my concerns for the future, the next 10 years, where it's going now. So I'm having some really nice dreams. So I don't know if this means anything to anybody, but I'm having dreams about like I'm instead of like being nude in class, like I'm in class and I'm engaging the students there, right? My fellow students there. And by the way, these are no one who I know in this lifetime. We're just over there. But I'm sitting in class and I'm getting I received like report card and things that they were going to need for administration and things like that, which I'm not going to mention that part. That part's personal. With something that they said that they needed me to validate, but I ain't gonna say because I know what it means, and I ain't ready to face that in this reality myself. See, I'm working on myself too, and it's not just me working on. I'm here too. I'm having a human experience like everybody else. It's just that I take the time to study the psychic stuff and I share it. But I also have the ability to work on myself, and I understand when I need to. So this is one of those moments, okay? But maybe I'll share it when I have a little bit more wisdom about it. So basically why I brought this up is that they gave me like my over there, right? I'm in class and my grades are going higher. So yeah, my grade has increased, and that I'm on the trajectory of making an A over there on the other. I was sitting in class on the other side, and they gave me a report card, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I got a high B, and they said that as I am like in this to end the semester, by the way, it's like at the end of the semester, and so they said that I'm soon to have A's. So I'm on the right. So I took that as they're over there teaching me right. They're telling me, look, I'm on the right path. Keep up with all my assignments. Keep in. I'm starting to understand all of the aspects of how I need to, even the rational, logical parts to this. Moving more into the space where it's social media. So I have so much in store for you all. I can't wait. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and begin reading the. And I'm going to try to. Okay, so usually I do 2 videos, but I realize that that's a bit of a teaser. So I'm going to do I guess the intro to what the author thinks what this scripture represents. I do love to talk in the middle of the movie or the reading, excuse me, the reading of the Bhagavad Gita or any text, right? So I'm gonna talk. If you've seen me live giving, oh, by the way, the kinds of videos. Last part, I promise. The kinds of videos that I was doing, like what was the nature? What was the process? Well, I would do a reading, or I would get insight. Then I would find article, and then I would share my psychic insight against the professionally written article. So I was using real article, but also sharing the my psychic stance on things, what I was getting. So it was like a first time reaction type style, but with articles, which I love to do. So instead of articles, I'm doing it with the Bhagavad Gita and just leaving world affairs to, I could present it in other ways to a different place. So there you go. And this so brings me to a hard turn into chapter 5. It's taught Karm Sanyas Yog, or the Yog of Renunciation. And so, without further ado, okay, by the way, let's look up renunciation real quick because I know you know what it means. I've also put it in the description. But so, renunciation is the act of refusing to continue to acknowledge, recognize, or be bound. I want you to remember that bound by a contract. Remember contract. We know we know about Akashic contracts, right? Or obligation. And obligation we need to highlight. For to conclude that sentence for our purpose here today, karmic actions, karmic ties, soul ties, good or bad ones. Okay, and I can explain as we go along in this reading of the scriptures. So what is it in this regular language? It says it can also refer to the formal announcement, which that means a declaration. A declaration, we remember, right? An affirmation that's stated out loud. That's a declaration. Formally announcement that someone no longer owns, supports, believes in, or has a connection with something such as, for our purpose, karma. So also, renunciation in a very in the generic definitions, the act of or practice of renouncing, especially repudiation or ascetic self-denial. Okay, so I believe that that is stating that something that is that is not agreeable to self, like the false self, like self-denial, false self. I believe that's what that would represent. Um, let's see. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Oh boy, we're gonna figure this out. Oh, okay, here it is. And hey, not that one. Okay, here it is. Found it. And repudiation is a rejection or a proposal or idea. That's definitely false self, false ideas, refusal to fulfill or discharge an agreement, obligation, or debt, as in to be a debtor is, they say to be a sinner, sin, as in debtors. We are a debtor, indebted to something or someone, or indebted to a philosophy, or indebted to a culture, or indebted to religious values, the feeling of judgment. So, okay, that's a beautiful word. Okay, so we got that. Okay, so we got past that. So I'm gonna try to get through this quickly, the intro. So in this chapter, Sri Krishna compares Karm Sanyas Yog, in other words, the path of renunciation of actions, with Karm Yog, the path of work in devotion. And he says, we can choose either of the two paths. Okay, so this is a duality here, as both lead to the same destination. So either two paths will take us to the same destination. So again, one is the path of renunciation of actions and the path of work in devotion. And now we covered Karm Yog in, I believe, chapter 3 and 4, actually. However, he explains that the renunciation of actions is rather challenging. Ooh. Now, this sounds like immediately this is the one I would be enrolling in. I don't know what they're going to tell us, you all. And can only be performed flawlessly by those whose minds are adequately pure. Oh, yeah, I would definitely try to enroll in this class. And I probably would half do it. So let's keep going, what we can learn to better ourselves, to empower ourselves. Purification of the mind can be achieved only by working in devotion. See, that's where I would go bad, because I would get there in that class of reunification of actions and be thinking, uh-oh, if I'm going to purify my mind, I'm going to need the path of work in devotion, which is found in the other class. So why on earth did I take the advanced one for? Okay, so therefore, Karm Yog is a more appropriate path for the majority of humankind. There you have it. And I need to say there's no shame in that. I need to say that to myself too. I'm included. The Karm Yogis, okay, that means a practitioner of the Karm Yoga, of the Karm Yoga, okay, karmic yoga experiences. That is the practitioner of such. Okay, with a purified intellect, perform their worldly duties, right? That's the social duties, without any attachment to its fruits, good or bad. When they say fruits, what your actions will render, your alignment, your assignment for good or bad. They dedicate all their works and its results to God. So that means they dedicate all their works and its results to God. That's why you hear so many believers, like Christians, they'll say, I can't take the glory, and or like people who win the Emmy, or people who win like championships, at the very end of it all, they say, I want to give all this to God, couldn't have done it without him, etc. That's what this is. They dedicate all their works and its results to God. Just as a lotus leaf that floats on water does not get wet, the Karm Yogis practitioner also remain unaffected by sin. See, that's what I'm talking about. This is 5 centuries before, right, the Bibles, but it uses the words like sin, as in sin is important. Even then, 5 centuries before, sin is important. That's interesting. Now I've also have read ancient Greek. The pantheon gods, right? Zeus, etc. His wife Hera, and they've also used words like righteousness and sin. So these are very interesting ideas when we think about the evolutionary minds of humankind. They are aware that the soul resides within the body. Now, we know that's metaphysically, that means the mind. So they are aware that the mind resides, the part of us that's aware within the body, that is like a city with 9 gates. It's like a city with 9 gates. Now, that is the 9 gates, that's talking about chakras. Therefore, they do not, or the sephiras, like the sephiras, the 9 gates. Therefore, they do not consider themselves to be the doer, right? Nor the enjoyer of their actions, the doer nor the enjoyer of their actions. So they're kind of like just there for the ride. They are aware that there is something deeper. There's deeper meaning. They have the ability to see the bigger picture. Okay, so endowed with the vision of equality. Ooh, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's why I love the Holy Bhagavad Gita. Let me read that. Let me say it one more time. Endowed with the vision of equality, they look equally upon a Brahmin. Now, Brahmin, that means like higher status, a cow, okay, apart from an elephant, apart from a dog, and a dog eater. Okay, so that means the ability to judge, right? That's judgment. In higher arcana, that's the 20th card. Um, or they say, not to judge others, etc., or having the ability to make good judgment. Seated in the absolute truth, that's from last chapter, the absolute truth. So that's looking at the bigger perspectives. Such truly learned people develop flawless qualities similar to God. In other words, virtues. The ignorant, worldly people do not realize that the pleasures they strive to relish from their sense objects are the very source of their misery. So, like chasing pleasures of world. See, that's just as the Bible is describing, chasing after worldly goods, gains, riches, pleasures of the flesh, etc. Is and having, but understand. But see, when people say that in the through the Bible, yeah, it sounds like, okay, just like it says here, feels like they're judging what they just described, endowed with the vision of equality, and seeing and looking at everybody upon everybody equally, but the absolute truth, the absolute truth of it though. And this is describing such as the ignorant worldly people do not realize that the pleasures they strive to relish from their senses objects are the very source of their misery, like keeping a big house and realizing, like, why am I in this big house alone, after my spouse has, my spouse has left or died, holding on to property that maybe it's been in the family. I've had clients that would call and they were so distraught. They felt so bad because they felt like the property was just sitting there, and it was like no one is living there. Their kids are all grown up, going to go live their lives, and they've got this property. And do they hold on to it or do they sell it? It was left to them, and they feel bad about even thinking of these. That's their dilemma. So, however, the Karm yogis do not get any joy from such worldly pleasures. Instead, they enjoy the bliss of God who resides inside them. In other words, they're worshiping, or praise, excuse me, they're praising, they're giving praise. So enjoy the bliss of God, meaning hopefully not blissfully ignorant, willfully ignorant, but they're enjoying the bliss of God who resides with them, meaning they're praising, like praise and worship. Praise and worship is one thing, praising is another. So that's what they're explaining here. See, that's what I'm talking about. 5 centuries before Christianity, but not to say it's not to say that this is better. It's not to say that the other one is stealing. Like, oh yeah, you got this from Krishna. No, this is saying look how humanity's universal consciousness evolves into what. But so when we tap into the ancient ancestral lineage, right? Ancestral, it awakens something by divine spark and right. This is our right. This is our divine spark. It awakens something within us, a deeper understanding to what in the world we're even reading in the more modern uh, Bibles, because we understand where the information is, what place is coming from when we go deeper, like into to scriptures that are written much earlier. Lord Sri Krishna then describes KarmSanyāsYog, or the path of renunciation. He says that the KarmSanyāsis, okay, that the KarmSanyāsis is the practitioner of KarmSanyāsYog. So let's talk about the practitioner. He says that the practitioner control their mind, intellect, and senses by performing several austerities. Now, we talked about austerities, that would have been in chapter 2. And austerities are like sacrifices. They're like little sacrifices, like things that you can do, but it's like, okay, and it's not based on, oh, you're a priest. No, you it's anybody in life, including law enforcement, can their austerities is upholding the law. Okay, being law abiding themselves. That's their austerity. Just as someone who is a cook prepares a professional cook, they're preparing foods, right, that people enjoy, that food that they enjoy themselves. That's an austerity. So austerity, or a painter, someone who paints is painting for the world, but who paints because they love it, enjoy it in themselves. That's an austerity. So, okay, so you get it. So by shutting out all their thoughts of external pleasures, okay, and looking within, which I call, by the way, I call it heaven's currency. Heaven's currency. So by shutting off their thoughts of external pleasures, right? Instead of saying, "Oh, I need that to be happy," instead they become free from fear, desire, and anger. So the fear of not being able to obtain that, relinquishing the desire to want that, and then when you get it, it's just sitting there, and the anger that you ain't got it because you're the one that doesn't have it, but you never really wanted it when you really admit it. And say so, and by including devotion to God in all their austerities, right? That means praising in oneself the gift that one has. They attain long-lasting peace. You find peace. It's peaceful without all of that. You know, chasing things you don't want anyway is stressful. It's peaceful to embrace the things that will provide for you the things you actually need and want. Not just things you actually need, but things that you actually want for yourself. Okay, and this is where officially we have entered into the scriptures themselves. And this seems like this is going to be a shorty. So I'm so sad about that. But let's go right into it. So the Bhagavad Gita, verse 1, chapter 5. So Arjun, we know Arjun. Arjun is our star. And then O Shri Krishna is also a star in this, and they're in communication. We got to be familiar with these two people because the entire Bible is these two people talking. And this style of like writing method is even crazy amazing considering the the times. So it says, "O Shri Krishna," says Arjun. Oh, by the way, Krishna is God. Okay, Krishna is, in this context, Krishna is the God, top God, Lord God, chief God. The supreme God's personality, etc. You know what I mean? He's top head figure. All his such stuff is capitalized. All his pronouns capitalized. You get it. You get it. Arjun is, remember, he's a soldier and he's in a dilemma right now. And I won't go into it because if I do, I'll never get through verse 1. You praised Sanyas. Okay, so you prayed. So again, remember I said earlier The first time that praise is used is in verse 1, but remember, it's about the praise. So the path of renunciation of actions. And you also advised to do KarmSanyāsYog, the work with devotion. Please tell me decisively which of the two is more beneficial. Praise or the worship itself, the devotion. Which one is more lucrative? Well, so the Lord, the Supreme Lord, is exactly what it says in 5:2, says, here, I'll go ahead and share before, wait a minute. Let me, how did I do this last time when I was wanting to do this? Okay. Ah, so let's see. This is what it says. I won't do too many of these like last time, but it's a little long. So I remember how to do this. I just kind of break it up. Wow, really? Okay, let's see. Uh, hmm. Well, it's a little long, and it's not really wanting me to post. Okay, forget it. I'll just read it to you, okay? So, um, the Supreme Lord said, both the path of KarmSanyāsYog, renunciation of actions, and KarmSanyāsYog, working in devotion, lead to the supreme goal. The supreme goal, which is unity. The supreme goal, by the way, is unity with God. But KarmSanyāsYog is superior to KarmSanyāsYog, which KarmSanyāsYog, remember, is like praising. So the work it's in itself is the more important. Okay. And here's why, and this is in verse 3. Yogis, who neither desire nor hate anything, should be considered always renounced. Free from all dualities, they are easily liberated from the bonds of material energy because they're not hating on anyone, nor are they desiring to be anyone. They are themselves. They are renounced. So, okay, so in verse 4 it says, only the ignorant speak of uh, Sankhya, renunciation of actions, or KarmSanyāsYog, and KarmSanyāsYog, work in devotion, as different. Uh-oh. So what? So we're not supposed to think of them as two different things? Oh, okay. It says those who are truly learned say that by applying ourselves to any one of these paths, we can achieve the results of both. So you get both of them. So as in, have you ever heard the expression, you praise through your works or your actions? Say like, okay, you, because some people say, well, I don't sing and dance to praise. I praise through because a praise can come through volunteering at, which is also an austerity, at a food dispensary for the poor is a way of praising. So, and it's also considered an austerity, a devotion. So, yeah. So here it's saying that one or the other leads to one path. Is one, they're aligned with one path, which the ultimate goal is unity with God. And then 5 says the supreme state that is attained by means of KarmSanyāsYog, the supreme state. Now, remember, KarmSanyāsYog people are, are on a higher, they're operating from a higher level than people who are, let's say, needing to, I mean, they just have a profound understanding about God. But we'll say it that way and leave it there, kind of leave it raw there. So, and then the reason why it says that, it says also is Sanya's or KarmSanyāsYog also attained by working in devotion. So you can obtain praise through working in devotion. Got it. Hence, those who see KarmSanyās and KarmSanyāsYog to be identical truly see things as they are. So that means if you truly follow on the one path, when you practice austerities or devotion, you are praising just as much as when you're praising and you are devotionally, becoming aspiring toward union, the unity with God. So they said it's proper to see them as identical, not as separate. 5-6, perfect renunciation. Okay, what makes a good renunciation? KarmSanyās is difficult to attain without performing work in devotion, KarmSanyāsYog. Almighty armed Arjun, Arjun is a warrior, but he says, but the sage who is adept in KarmSanyāsYog quickly attains the supreme. And the supreme is God, quickly attains God. Okay. Or the Lord. So verse 7 says, the yogis who are of purified intellect and who control the mind and senses see the soul of all souls in every living being, God within every living being. That's the meaning of namaste. Though performing all kinds of actions, they are never entangled. So they can see God in everything. However, they're performing their duties, their social duties, but they don't get entangled in with every living creature, every living being. That goes along with when I mentioned there's a difference between empathy and compassion. This is describing compassion. Empathy would put you in a place where you will become entangled, which in fact, empathic people, that's what they gripe about. That's what they talk about all the time, being entangled in cords. And the reason for shadow work and cord cutting is because we do become entangled in people's affairs. Psychics, people who are sensitive to others and other people's plights can become entangled in some way. 5, 8, and verse 8 and 9 verses are combined here. Those steadfast, that is a familiar word, right? From the Abrahamic faith. So those steadfast in KarmSanyāsYog always think, I am not the doer, even while engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, moving, sleeping, breathing, speaking, excreting, grasping, and opening or closing the eyes. So meaning they're involved in, they're having a human experience, right? But they also understand that, as they have in quotations, I am not the doer. So steadfast in their KarmSanyāsYog is kind of like when they say, be part of the world, but don't be of the world. It's that concept. Then it goes on to say, with the light of the divine knowledge, as we are divine sparks. So with the light of divine knowledge, they see that it is only the material senses that are moving amongst their objects. So they see that it is only the material senses that are moving amongst their objects. So that is very enlightening. It's saying that, if, in other words, the world is moving. The world is the world anyway. It's going to move, and the systems of the world. That's what a system does. It moves. It moves in the material senses. That's what it's describing here. Verse 10: Those who dedicate their actions to God, abandoning all attachment. There goes that word, attachments. Now, people, even today, it's 2024, and people still are asking, how do I mean, I've even had my clients we're even talking about relinquishing or breaking attachments and bonds to things. Bonds and attachments, the same thing. Being attached, being bonded to something. So it says, those who dedicate their actions to God, abandoning all attachment, remain untouched by sin. So I was going to roll over this, but since they brought in remain untouched by sin, in Christendom, they describe being in bondage due to sin, to the sinful nature. So then you have to apply being born into sin, meaning when you come into the world, you come into a world that is, it's a wonderful place, but we also know, we'd be a fool to also to not understand it can be a very unpleasant place, an unfair and even unjust place, with love and peace, sharing and caring. But we'd be a fool to not acknowledge that when it means being born into sin, it means that you're not above what you're going to face as a human. You're going to face disappointment. That's what it's telling you straight out the womb. Even in some cases, even while in the womb, like the moment that you're here, present in the space, as you would say. I know that's debatable, but I'm saying even in the womb, we're starting to understand that it's not safe. Period. The moment, you know, uh, creation starts, some form, whatever you want, scientific creation, or scientific and spiritual creation, or spiritual creation. There, we got you all covered. Just choose one of them. Okay, whichever what's on the sliding scale is yours. The moment you're here, so it's saying, those who dedicate their actions to God, abandoning all attachment, remain untouched by sin, just as a lotus leaf is untouched by water. Now, we're going to stay on topic because I know this is the questions that arise about being born into sin, and that, okay, then why do bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people? So I'm not going to touch that. I'm just reading the verses. Okay. But it's pretty clear that if you're asking that question, verse 10 is unescapable, because it's saying that you're born into a world that in which you're going to have confrontation. So verse 11 says, the yogis, while giving up attachment, perform actions with their body, senses, mind, and intellect. So the actions they performed, that can be austerities. Usually that's called that's the austerities, but it can also be translated as the praise part as well. So only for the purpose of self-purification. So they're saying that they're purifying themselves. So for this, so said the yogis, while giving up attachments, perform only the actions that's good to their senses, both mind, senses, body, intellect, soul, mind, body, soul, the only for the purpose of self-purification. That means of course, that is keeping the body is a temple. The idea that you're using your body as a vessel, a vehicle for God to use, that's what that's saying. Um, Verse 12, offering the results of all activities to God. So that means all the results, right? The cause you even give to God, like the reason why I'm doing this, therefore the results, the cause and effects, the results, all activities to God. The Karm Yogis attain everlasting peace. So isn't that interesting? Everlasting peace. That's a very New Testament Christian thing. To enter God, to find to live in everlasting peace, to reign in everlasting peace, no wars, no gripes, nothing bad happening, because it's all good and bliss, a heaven on the earth, everlasting peace. The perfected vehicle or body, the perfected self. Whereas those who, being impelled by their desires, work with a selfish motive, become entangled because they are attached to the fruits of their actions. Which means, now this is very interesting, because before I begin this, I heard distinctly, well, I don't believe in karma. There's no such thing. Again, good things happen to bad people, while bad things happen to good people. So there couldn't be no such thing. But it says, whereas those who, being impelled by their desires, work with a selfish motive, become entangled, attached, bonded, because they are attached to the fruits of their actions. So that means the things you do, they say what goes around comes around. Well, maybe it was like, like a ball with a string attached, and you're whirling it around until you're ensnared. And then it just goes round and round until the ball reaches back to center, to the origin, or where the forces, where you are being the one that is presenting the force, the centrifugal force. Okay, so 13. The embodied beings who are self-controlled and detached reside happily in the city of nine gates, free from thoughts that they are the doers or the cause of anything. As in, I'm not the one who did it. God is the one who did it. I mean, clearly that's what it's saying in their one. You could say, but isn't that just somebody who's a believer, often Christians, in their own little bubble, that nothing happens? They're just judging everybody. They're throwing rocks at glass houses and things like that, stones at glass houses. Eh, who's to say? But who's to say that there's no truth to what they're saying? So, verse 14, neither the sense of doership nor the nature of actions come from God. Neither sense of doership nor the nature of actions come from God, nor does he capitalize he create the fruits of the actions. So nor does he, God, create the fruits of actions. This is talking about when people are attached. So it says, all this is enacted by the modes of material nature, the gunas. Yeah, this is those who are. So when they say the devil made you do it, or God put you in a position to do it, it says, it's like God didn't create the fruit of the action. Rather, A person's actions have them in the hot chair or the bed where they're going to be injected with lethal nitrogen. You know what I mean? Um, chapter verse 15 says the now see, this is another word that is ascended to Christendom. The omnipresent, that means omnificent, right? The omnipresent God does not involve himself, capitalized, in the sinful, or virtuous. We talked about these are talking about describing virtues. So sinful or virtues. So he does not. So God, the omnipresent, all-knowing God, does not involve himself in the sinful or virtuous deeds of anyone. Meaning, picking and choosing, picking and choosing. The living entities, that would be the world, are deluded because their inner knowledge is covered by ignorance. So, meaning that, well, this is definitely talking to one's self. The ego. This is talking to man's ego, definitely. But we'll leave that for another day. Verse 16 says, "But for those whose ignorance is destroyed by divine knowledge." Also, ignorance could be the Maya, the illusion, that 100% the false self, creating false realities that we make real. But for those whose ignorance is destroyed by divine knowledge, the supreme entity, the supreme entity is revealed, just as the sun illumines everything when it rises. Illuminates everything. Illuminate everything when it rises. Meaning, the supreme being, the supreme God, right? The supreme Lord rises, illuminating. Meaning, they say, not let knowledge be your light, be your torch, knowledge be your torch, knowledge be your sword, knowledge be your helm, knowledge be your sword, etc. Knowledge be your armor. Okay, so verse 17, those whose intellect is fixed in God, okay, intellect fixed in God, that means meditating on thy precepts, fixed in God, who are completely absorbed in God. And you know what that completely absorbed in God, you know what that definitely points to. That's an easy one. The firm faith, as if they couldn't go further. The firm faith. It even included firm. The affirming faith, your confirmation of faith, your firm faith in Him as the supreme goal. That's your goal. Such persons quickly reach the state from which there is no return. You cannot find your way back. You don't want nothing because you know you're in. You know why, for what reason, why. Their sins having been dispelled by the light of knowledge. Now, that is, you won't believe me if I don't go into this. So there's a belief that when you are saved, as what is being described, or you're called redeemed. So those whose intellect is fixed in God, who are completely absorbed in God with firm faith in Him as a supreme goal, is being redeemed. So when one is redeemed, that means one has, is it okay? So I'm going to use some Christian language here. When one is redeemed, it's like they saying bought at a price. You've been brought at. Don't you know you've been bought at a price, that you may be free indeed in Him. That means free indeed in God. But in this case, for accuracy purposes, we have to say in Christ, free indeed in Christ, because that's what that means. The purchasing of such of a costly um, way of living, freedom, would be Jesus's giving up of life, which that in such that's why they refer to him as the title Christ. Christ is a title. Now, why is that important? Because that's tying into the idea of being redeemed, one who is redeemed. Because when one is redeemed, it is said that, and there is no sin. So that analogy, in fact, that's a very real concept when one is saved, especially but it's not like it doesn't exist while one is on the earth, but one in believing, right, is absorbed in God. They're not thinking about the sin like we're thinking, like sin like we're thinking about it like right now. But when one is in unity with God, that means in heaven there is no sin. So it says such persons quickly reach the state from which there is no return, meaning or redemption, their sins having been dispelled by the light of knowledge. They've been redeemed. Okay. Like finding redeemable qualities about a person. That hence goes back to that where's the one? Neither the sense of doership nor the nature of actions come from God, nor does he create the fruits of actions. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. The omnipresent God does not involve himself in the sinful or virtuous deeds of anyone. The living entities are deluded because their inner knowledge is covered by ignorance, meaning everybody has an opportunity to do either one, to sin or be virtuous. And he's not putting one or the other. He's not picking and choosing. He doesn't involve himself with that. That's pettiness. So he's not doing that. He's not sitting up there saying, well, you get to, but you don't get to, because you look like this or because you did this over that. That we think that way. We do that, but that's not what they're saying here. They're saying that, um, just as it mentioned earlier, he will redeem the person who is following the right way, who unifies with him. So verse 18 says, the truly learned with the eyes of divine knowledge see with equal vision of Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. That means not judging. Now they always start with that. Not judging, not judge one another, casting the first stone, all of that. 19, verse 19 says, those whose minds are established in equality of vision conquer the cycle of birth and death in this very life. So this means that you have found that I described. So this is a further proving that reincarnation is not the goal. Reincarnate. In fact, by the way, this is what. Okay, so it's debatable. There are certain scriptures that lead to, let's say, like John. Some people believe that John is reincarnated from Elijah. They do believe that in certain scriptures allude to reincarnation. And now Christians, in-church Christians and scholars actually present this. So okay, so now we got to go from there to this. So the Bhagavad Gita teaches that, okay, now just as the Bible teaches that there is a place of Now, the Greeks call it Tartarus, but it can be called hell. It can be called Hades. I don't think it's quite the underworld, but it's a place of torment. So there's that, and then there's reincarnation. Now, reincarnation is supposed to be the many tries so that one can have chances to have union with God or peace everlasting. So it's like opportunities, many, many opportunities, right? For the, what they call it, the everlasting soul part of us to find the absolute truth. If it can be obtained, if it can be obtained, if it is obtained to everlasting peace. So the reason why we have to say it, get the layout. The goal in Hindu religion, like we thought that it was for, is not for reincarnation. It wasn't meant for reincarnation. The goal is for union with God. That's the goal. Yes, there might be scriptures that allude that there's an incarnates and reincarnation in the Bible, just as much, or that they teach, by the way, just as much as in the Hindu religion, right? Even in the Bhagavad Gita, the holy song of God or psalm of God, is stating that, okay, reincarnation, but that's not the goal. Like, our goal shouldn't be, well, I know we friendly in a humorous way say, in my next life or in my past life I must have, but but for the truth of the matter, that's not the goal. Is to anticipate that in the next life, when you reincarnate, meaning it will be maybe better for you, or you say, oh well, yeah, when you reincarnate, you're going to come back as something lower than what you are now, and I shall bask in that. That's kind of like saying you're basically going to hell. That's basically what that's like saying, or close to it, because reincarnation isn't hell. We're not there in those chapters, but it distinguishes the three sections. Okay, so let me read verse 19. Verse 19 says, those whose minds are established in equality of vision conquer the cycle of birth and death in this very life. That means one can stop their test runs or their reincarnations in the life that we're living, like right now. You don't have to reincarnate. That's a big Western conundrum. Like, why did I choose to come here? Why did I choose a life of pain? Why did I choose to be born to this particular mother? Why didn't I choose so and so or this kind of person? I met my friends, and my friend's mom took me in as their own. And why didn't I just do that and just be born from that family and just be done with it? Why did I do this? Why did I do that? But it says that, people speak like that, but it's saying that in this very life that we're in right now, of whether, oh yeah, you chose it because you needed this experience, because you need to go through this, well, let me read your Akashic records to see what's going on with you from other past times. When will I get to cross over and stay over? Will I have to come back in my next life? How will my next life be? Those are questions that Western minds ask a lot from psychics. I've been asked that like many times about these conversations. So then it goes on to explain, they possess the flawless qualities of God. That means perfection, and are therefore seated in the absolute truth. Meaning, they uh, well, the name of this is, they basically praise and worship the Karm Yoga and the um, the Sanyas, praise and worship, all of time, one with one being in one and seated in the absolute truth. Okay, so I know it sounds like, but like for eternity. No, I'm pretty sure there's other things to do, but it's supposed to be so far way out there that we can't. It's hard to imagine what we will even be doing. But just a note, there's a lot of things to do right now in the world. And what if one was in a position to make life better for people still here in the earth? But anyway, that's another subject, and it separates from the idea that if we, according to, if we want to lean towards the Abrahamic, there wouldn't be that kind of earth to come back to serve, because the angels, this is in Corinthians, by the way, the angels would be free. And I know the reason for them to celebrate, they no longer are attached to their human um, individuals, people who they have to go to on God's call. They have to go to aid that person. So yeah, they'll be free, and the persons in their perfected state, those who are seated in the absolute truth, meaning they would be standing alongside in their perfected bodies, doing the praising and worshiping too, alongside angels. Now that's more Christian leaning, but I'm just making a distinction here. Okay, so verse 20 says, established in God, having a firm understanding of divine knowledge and not hampered by delusion. They neither rejoice in getting something pleasant nor grieve on experiencing the unpleasant. So established in God. This means, this is describing faith. Now they've already said faith, but we're gonna that's we said that, we mentioned that earlier. So, but this is verse 20. Established in God, having a firm faith or firm understanding of divine knowledge and not hampered by, remember, the Maya that I described earlier, illusion, delusional, the false self, the false realities that we create for ourselves. They neither rejoice in getting something pleasant nor grieve on experiencing the unpleasant, because you know that this is you being divinely guided. But it's not like you're running blindfolded, expecting not to get hit, running into mid traffic. It's not saying that, or that you won't ever go out and step in your companion's mess, poop. No, it's not saying that at all. It's saying that it's not saying that at all. What it's saying is that you're always constantly expectant, that even like in a situation where it appears to be bleak. Imagine people thinking that, oh gosh, and their student loan, and they probably thinking there's no more money left for them. Now, billions, it used to be only millions of dollars. Now it's up to billions of dollars being omitted, being wiped out. Before, we were talking about whether if it could happen. Before that, we were only talking about it would only be in the millions. But then what actually happens is that it's in the billions, and many's student, their loans are going to be um, are going to be forgiven or paid with a price, or if you want to say bought by a price, and or redeemed. They're being redeemed. So who is their redeemer? Well, you know, but whoever's whoever helps them out. I mean, kudos. Whoever's responsible for that. But I mean, that's kind of like the idea that, but just because let's say during the times when they didn't think that such an opportunity would ever fall their way, was there any reason for them not to believe just because they're okay, they're not getting their loans forgiven, but do I still keep believing in God or do I not? Or am I doing something wrong? Did I offend God or is it supposed to happen? Or maybe I'm not supposed to believe in God. It's just like either way, it's like, okay, God didn't he didn't forgive my student loan, or he didn't have the world, or he didn't invoke, or no one just simply did, okay? So for that very reason, I'm attached. I'm attached and I'm thinking, where's my life going? Where's my life heading? Where do I stand? But now it's, well, okay, it happened. Now what do you do? Well, now you've got your duties. Just because you got the debt, you got the debt canceled, right? You're no longer a debtor. Does that mean that you don't fulfill your social duty? So no, not having attachments allows me to go now. I can go and do what I'm meant to do, my calling. I just go and do it because that's my inner praise. That ties me to whatever I believe in, God, or ties me into my inner praise. 21 says, those who are not attached to external sense pleasures realize divine bliss in the self. So divine bliss within the selves, being here it is, being united with God through Yog. They experience unending happiness. So that's the reason why, in other words, when they say, what are you talking about? When it's good, that's a good thing, but that's a short time pleasure. Okay, they forgive the debt. Yippee, 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 until it runs out. And now what? I don't go and put my degree into good use. I just keep working at the job it's like, oh, now I'm working at this job that I've been working at. Now I get to keep all the money, all these jobs that I've been working. Now I get to keep all the money for myself because I'm going to have to pay this big lump to the schools because my debt's forgiven. So that's what it's talking about. So I'm living it. So that is an illusion. I'm in this illusion that I'm making all this money. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. When the reality is that I've got a calling on, that you've got a calling, you've got a degree. You need to put that degree into use now. And by doing so, you tap into your inner bliss because that's I call it heavenly currency. You're doing what you're called to do, and that's where you become unified with God, or with the universe, by the way, who does not let you down. And there's always a way around. There's always a way through. There's always a way, to open the door when the doors are closed. And the experience is unending happiness, not a short time, a short time of happiness, but an unending happiness. We're more going for nonstop laughter than short term laughter, just to, you know, just for like a relief. We're going for more than just for a comedic relief moment in our lives, or something that we would say, and like an irony, that puts a smile on our face. Oh, wow, lucky break. You're like, geez, all that's happened. No, more like an unending wave of happiness is more the description that we're shooting for. 22. The pleasures that arise from contract with the sense objects. So the pleasure that arises from the contact with the sense objects. Okay? This is external things. Though appearing as enjoyable to worldly minded people, so though appearing as enjoyable to worldly minded people, so that means like objects and things, material things in the world, or worldly things that would give you short term, it feels good while it's nice, okay, enjoyable. And they use the phrase worldly minded people, or be of the world, not of it, not in it, or don't be be a part of the world, but not of the world. Okay, so are verily, they use that word verily, are verily a source of misery. Verily a source of misery. So, like, running around and holding the jobs that paid for the student loan, now it's, I'm still holding on to it, but it's also, during the times when I was paying that, I was thinking, if I could catch a break so I can get into what I'm supposed to be doing in life. I'm using this as a crutch. That is misery. That's not, oh, they've left the pressure off of me. Now I can enjoy. No, that has been the source of your misery from the very beginning. It says, O son of Kunti, that's Arjun, such pleasures have a beginning. If it has a beginning and an end, it has an end. So the wise people do not delight in them because it's only short lived. Like, don't celebrate now, because what's coming around or what happens next is it ends, or the room stops laughing, or the company stops enjoying you, and then your contract ends, and now you're out of a job. You got to go find another one. That hopefully that'll pay you more money, or will give you the promotion, the position that's more like a promotion that you were looking for to begin with. So it's saying, look, remember that when you said, come on, let's be real. The world is not full of clouds and fairy dust. And you can't always be happy, because the world actually is opposite. It's a very dark, and it can be a very unpleasant and unyielding space. And if you don't know that the world is unfair, then maybe you're okay, blah 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 blah, right? That rhetoric. Well, this is agreeing with you. This is saying, yes, the pleasures that arise that give you some pleasure, through the senses, it's enjoyable for worldly minded people, like people saying, why won't you do this, why won't you do that, and you'll be happy. You need to get this, you need to get this, you need to buy that, you need to get this kind of person, and you need to stick with them, you need to stick with your own, etc., not explore, blah blah blah. Stay on your block, and don't come to another country. Don't give it a chance. And then that has been, but at the same time, you're absolutely miserable. You've been miserable from it's always sustaining nothing but misery. And very few times through the senses you find these times of pleasure. And it's saying that such pleasures have a beginning and an end. And so wise people do not delight in them. No, you have to, as they say, what do they say? You have to overthrow all of that. You have to overthrow the world system, or the world ways. The system is here to stay as long as you are. But I mean, when I say overthrow, I mean you have to not be a part of the world system. Be okay. Be of the world, but not in the world, not into their affairs. Is what they're saying. Yeah, you got to go to work. Yeah, you got to pay the tax. Yeah, you got to do that. Be of the world. Do as the Romans do. Do the work, but that doesn't mean you have to be in the world. So 23 says, those persons are yogis who, before giving up the body, are able to check the forces of desire and anger, and they alone are happy. Meaning, so the forces of desire and anger, checks and balances, they are alone, and they are alone. They are not alone. They alone are happy. They are happy. Those persons are yogis, who are experiencers, who before giving up the body are able, checks and balances, the forces they're able to check their desires and anger, and they alone are happy. They are happy. They find their happiness. The desire for that, the anger because of that, they are happy. Alone, they alone are happy. 24, and I have a few more. Oh man, that was very short. It says, those who are happy within themselves, enjoying the delight of God within, praising and worship, and as we already know, doing what you are meant to do, right? Social duties, devotion are illuminated by the inner light. The inner light, we know, is the inner light as the inner eye, as the inner heaven, or the nine gates, etc. City of the nine gates. Such experiencers are united with the Lord, okay, united with the Lord, in union with the Lord, and are liberated from material existence. The word liberated from material existence. Wow. So that is amazing. So those who are happy within themselves, enjoying the delight of God within, and are illuminated by the inner light, such experiencers are united with the Lord and are liberated from material existence. And material existence doesn't mean without wealth. Um, as Now, Krishna and of course the Bibles all describe themselves as, having plenty, wealth, riches beyond measure, etc. So it's not about, does this mean you have to living a life of piety and poverty? That's not what that material existence means. It means a place where you're aligning yourself to things that you never wanted, because there's things that you don't really want, and it makes you mad that you don't have it, and or that it brings you some pleasure for a time, or that you're sad because you cannot have it. And so this is a saying that turning within and finding out what exactly makes you happy, and try that. And does that give you wealth, riches, and all the pleasures and things in the world? Would that bring you happiness? If that don't do it, then what is this all for then? What's the purpose of reading any Bible then, if there's no inner happiness involved? Verse 25 says, those holy persons whose sins have been purged, you know where that comes from, or where that leads to. This is probably where it comes from, but this is where it leads to. Whose doubts are annihilated, okay, so who have no doubts, that's talking about faith. Whose minds are disciplined, focusing on precepts, okay, and who are devoted to the welfare of all beings. So that doesn't mean discarding world life and business. So devoted to the welfare of all beings, attain God, and are liberated from material existence. So this is also very much, it keeps saying that. So let's look at that a little bit before we end this. So there's this idea that for believers, God always finds a way to get them what they need, money, and also give them abundance. Like by choices that they make, they only needed like 3%, but then God gave them 90%. So, that kind of thing. And so this is definitely saying that, as they say, God is their supplier. God is their provider. This is what this is. This is what it's pointing towards. Liberated from material existence is, it's saying that you're still in the world. You're still, yes, handling your business affairs, but we're not disregarding a luxury, a nice lifestyle, comfortable lifestyle, let alone a luxury lifestyle. There's no disregarding that. There's no needing of, okay, I've got to give up my ability to may have a gift to being rich. Okay, that may be a gift. That's not what the Bhagavad Gita is saying. It's not saying give up that and then you can find bliss with God. It's saying that if you can explore your gift being, being rich from the inside out rather than from the outside in, that you'll find personal happiness. Because I read for a lot of people who are rich, and I've also read for people who are rich as in it's a matter of truth. It isn't a matter of they feel rich. It's just the truth on paper, that there's something that they wanted, that they inwardly wanted beyond what riches can offer. But that if from the inside can offer you riches, would you take it? And it's saying that that is possible. Verse 25. Verse 26 says, for those uh, Sanyais, or, this is the Sonya practitioners, the praise people practitioners, says, who have broken out of anger and lust through constant effort, who have subdued their mind and are self-realized, self-actualized. That means they're no longer easily delusionable. They're not easily influenced. They have had their aha moment, their epiphany. This would be the alignment with Pisces, which is the hangman, I believe, in the tarot. The liberation from material existence is both here and hereafter. So that means praise is eternal, like the praise in that is eternal. So for those experiences who have broken out of anger and lust through constant effort, putting forth the effort to redirect their energies, break addictions and habits, take control of the desires of the body, who have subdued their mind, like, why do my mind go there to these places, and are self-realized. That means they have found their true self and they're working to connect with their higher self. Liberation from material existence is both here and hereafter. So yes, it's definitely 100% obtainable. 27 and 28 verses are combined, shutting out all thoughts of external enjoyment. So shutting out all thoughts of external enjoyment with the gaze fixed on, or the meditation fixed on the space between the eyebrows. Let's talk about meditation. Oh yeah, we already said that. Equalizing the flow of the incoming and outgoing breath, the prana, in the nostrils, slow breathing, control breathing, and thus controlling the senses, the mind, and intellect. See, this is actually telling how to meditate. As in the Bible, when it mentions meditation, it says meditate on my words, focusing on the inner eye. It talks about it, but we go deeper to the ancients. What do they mean when they say inner eye, the eyebrow? They're talking about focusing. They're saying meditate, yes, but it doesn't describe how to focus. Because people call me, how do I meditate? Well, we got to look at how do you know the difference, or understand, excuse me, do you understand the difference between concentration and focus? You can concentrate, but that doesn't mean you're focused. So they're two different things. So in this case, it's saying shutting out all thoughts of external enjoyment with the gaze fixed on the space between the eyebrows, equalizing that's about your third eye, equalizing the flow of the place, or the point of focus, if you want to say that way. So if you don't understand the third eye or anything like that, you could say point of focus is between the eyebrows, equalizing the flow of the incoming and outgoing breath in the nostrils. That's working with the prana, karmic breathing for meditation, Kundalini breathing exercises, yoga exercises, karma yoga exercises, or Kundalini yoga exercises. thus controlling the senses, the mind, the intellect, regulating, okay? The sage who becomes free from desire and fear always lives in freedom. Always lives in freedom. It's all about liberation. It's talking about freedom. In the Bible, it talks about freedom, free from sin. One liberated from the control of others through their devices, their sins, or the things that cause them to react and engage in their entanglement with the world. So the last verse, sadly, I can never get tired of reading the Bhagavad Gita. Was good for me. I hope it was good for me as it is for you. It did a lot for me today. And thank you so much for enjoying this. And thank you for those who are watching the replay. I love when you all subscribe and interact. You can leave comments. I do read the comments. If you don't see your comment immediately, that's because I read through them first and then I post them. But some comments will automatically just post, I found. So you might comment and then it'll post anyway, because I'm not really asking it to hold for review, but sometimes it does. If it holds it for review, just let me read it and then I'll comment on it and then I'll post it for you in the comment section down below. So the last verse is verse 29 of the Bhagavad Gita. Having realized me, capitalized, it's about, so having realized God, or in this book, Krishna, Lord Krishna, me is, by the way, me and my is capitalized because it's Krishna, like God actually speaking. He's actually speaking to Arjun rather than it's, someone is speaking for God or for God. Or sometimes, God he'll say, I have, but he has used, he has spoken in the terms of, first person speak as well especially in the, if you read it from the Hebrew to English version, he does speak from first person, God does, but oftentimes you'll find that it's, his second person capitalized, and definitely they'll capitalize clearly his names or his titles, God's titles in the Abrahamic faith. But in the Bhagavad Gita, this is a full-fledged conversation between God and a warrior. So God is oftentimes speaking for himself. So, it's very important to note that the Bhagavad Gita does reference, he is a he male, because this is going to be necessary, because as we progress through the chapters, the female is included, and it's a whole big thing. It's a whole nother thing. You're going to love it. And that's why I'm not going to go into it today. Um, it's amazing. And you're going to be like, didn't know that. And that is the effect I'm going for. Like, you'll be surprised. None of us knew that, what I'm going to share with you in the future. But anyways, that's a minute from now. So 29 says, having realized me, or having realized the absolute truth, or God, as the enjoyer of all sacrifices and austerities. So that means everything you do for God, that God is enjoying it. So, that's why when people are in praise and worship in churches, there's always like this, wait a minute, who is the person who does this? Oh my gosh, I gotta look it up, because you know sometimes you start the evangelist. I got it before I even looked it up. Good, it came to me right away. Okay, so the evangelist, how the evangelist evangelize and says, you know, go ahead and give God all the praises, or in music, oftentimes they say, and she smiles on us, and she gives us her everlasting light. Maybe she never rescinded back for our sake. always keeping us warm in her love and embrace, these kinds of things, the evangelist, the spirit of the evangelical, I don't know, evangelical spirit, evangelizing spirit. So, that's what it means. So, as the enjoyer of all sacrifices and austerities, that God or the God being, right, is enjoying our sacrifices, or enjoying our austerities. We're giving thanks. We're making them smile. We're putting that love pressure on them and loving on them. Like when people say, "I'm just loving on Jesus," and all these kinds of variations of evangelizing. That's where this energy is at. Just okay. So having realized me as the enjoyer, like I'm enjoying the sacrifices that you do. I enjoy what you do. Like, okay, I have another, like a biblical explanation. The story between Esau and I believe Jacob. Is that right? Hold on. Now I think I really got that one wrong. Let me see. I don't think it's Esau. Yeah, I think I got it wrong. Let me get it right then. Um, I know I got that wrong. Uh, Cain and Abel. There it goes. Yeah, I did. I was way off on that one. So Cain and Abel. So the story of Cain and Abel, and then Cain kills his brother because God loved Abel's sacrifice, or he loved his sacrifice unto him. So when God does love what you do, he loves the sacrifice of what you do. So having realized me as the enjoyer of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme Lord of all of the worlds, and the selfless friend of all living beings, my devotee attains peace. So you attain peace. So Abel attained peace with God, who enjoys in him everything that he does. Like, and also is like his friend. So that's why when Cain kills Abel, his brother, that's the punishment was so severe. It's like you killed a friend of his, you killed a friend of God, you killed a family member of God. He was, because he enjoyed him, he enjoyed his creation. So that's where that comes. So that's where that's pointing towards. But that's what the scripture is meaning, and it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. So I'm going to end this one, and I will prepare for uh, chapter 6 soon, and I'll be releasing another astrological and uh, psychic reading as well. So please keep a lookout for that, and have a great evening.